We surrender! The winner is Metabee!
Well, there you have it, folks. This is Kura Isagami of the Medarots News Network with an emergency meta news coverage here on the 12th of November, 2025, in this momentous day of Medarot history. Boy, oh boy, it is an absolute fantastic year to be a Medarotter, my friends, and I'm about to tell you why. I'm more than certain if you've been in the community over the course of the day, you will see that news about Medabots and Medarot as a whole has been positively buzzing. And might I say, for a very, very rightful and very highly anticipated reason. For those out of the loop, Imagineer has been currently in a little bit of a legal stall, I guess you could call it, with a trademark scammer. But the court had finally decided as of today that the judgment is handed down and the ultimate victory has been landed. There is no more lawsuit, no more trademark scammer. This farce and this war is finally over, my friends. And might I say, we are massively excited for this day. Something we've been waiting on for a very, very long time. And for those that are out of the loop, this might even be a good chunk of the reason why we've not heard anything about Medarot over the last several years. But I am getting ahead of myself. There is a lot, and I mean a lot of stuff to unpack with this whole particular debacle. It's been an ongoing case for the last roughly about 5 years now at time of recording, and it's just so glad to be finally put to rest. So what I'm going to do actually is kind of recap briefly a summary of events of what exactly happened. And then I'm going to read off the official announcement that was posted by Imagineer today to kind of wrap it up and bring you guys up to speed. So, what exactly happened? That's going to be the first question y'all are asking me. But Kura, what exactly happened and why is everyone so excited in the Medarot community? Well, let me take you back about 5 years, roughly about 2020, just before the events of COVID, back in January. Medarot S Unlimited Nova officially launched on mobile. So everyone got really excited. It was a fairly big success its first few months, and it picked up a lot of traction. And of course, you could see it on just about every app store you could find, even if you weren't able to install it from any store except the Japanese one. But then one day, a lot of folks kind of noticed it disappeared from app stores one day and couldn't really figure out why. Well, we did a little digging and find out that there is a man by the name of Kevin Kamadran who back in 2017 snatched up the EU trademark for the name Medabots. Now, I'm going to clarify something before I continue. This is for the trademark of the name, not the IP, like a lot of crypto bros might think and portray it is. He simply swiped up the name Medabots, Medabots, in the EU when the trademark expired, most likely because Imagineer just didn't realize it and forgot to renew. Well, Kevin bought it in 2017 and does nothing with it for 3 years. That's the start of what happened. In 2020, Medarot S launches, fairly large success, and suddenly Kevin comes swooping in out of nowhere in the EU and sues Imagineer, citing that the Medarot S Unlimited Nova is quote-unquote too similar to his particular project and development he's been working on, and he wants it removed from app stores. Well, the initial judgment fell that it was a default judgment actually, and the app disappeared from all the app stores. That's where we were trying to figure out what exactly happened. And when we did, it kind of started raising some red flags over what exactly happened, who was involved, and what was the timeline. Well, it just so happens that this Kevin fella was working on his own development, and I will use that for lack of a better term, and because it's not worth the other titles that people call it. But essentially, he was working on a development of a program that would be released publicly in an app store. It's kind of similar to what Medarot has been doing. And his entire goal was to release something to kind of hook in and ride on the Medabots, Medarot's coattails, in particular notoriety, to bring people into his development. However, in contrast, he also was developing and released a crypto coin. Metacoin, I believe, was the first one that he launched alongside it, that people could use and gamble in-game, that they could redeem for other parts and other perks and so on, or even pay to participate in tournaments. I really don't have to go into reason why that was the worst idea on planet Earth and why nobody except the crypto bros was on board with it. Well, needless to say, it took off because people were basically paying to bot views and everything, and everyone who basically had half a brain realized, wait, this is not Medabots, what's it doing? And we started spreading word about what was going on. My dear friend Crate did a fantastic job with this. I did cover this briefly in my first initial coverage of this when the first announcement of the court decision came down, which I will read in just a little bit, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So needless to say, a number of months pass, and Imagineer is finally coming around because the courts reach out and say, hey, why weren't you at this court case? And Imagineer goes, what court case? We weren't even told there was one. Well, it comes to realization that the courts noticed Imagineer was never told that Kevin was suing them, so needless to say, they never showed up, but at the same time, he also didn't even follow the proper procedures to actually suing a company and having it seen before a court. So, as a result of the default judgment, he was basically handed it because no one came to defend it. Well, now that the judges and Imagineer are on the same page, at this time, this is roughly about 2021, the courts strike down the original judgment and revisit it with proper discussions now that all parties are involved and can be made aware. Needless to say, it continues on for another roughly couple years back and forth, and both sides presenting their evidence, and it honestly also goes to show that every evidence that was brought up by Kevin to defend his case was really nothing more than a bunch of hot air. He was showcasing numbers that really didn't add up, false promises that he never made good on, and every kind of evidence he tried to portray against Imagineer basically fell flat. But then again, are we completely shocked? It was basically a court case he was guaranteed to lose. But continuing on, well into September, I believe, looking at this again, roughly about September of 2023, Imagineer, who has been very quiet on this court case the entire time, minus the vocal community that has been speaking out in support of Imagineer through this whole thing and kind of advocating for them. Imagineer makes an official statement regarding the first official judgment from the courts, now that both sides have been brought to the courtroom properly to discuss it. So let me go ahead and skip to the side here briefly, just so I can pull that up on the screen. Where is it? Here we go. Okay, a little bit farther. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is the original document that was posted back in September of 2023 regarding the initial judgment from the about the trademark. And I'm going to go ahead and read that off here. It is Google translated, so its formatting is just a little bit funny, but do humor me as I'm working on this and I read it for y'all just to bring you all up to speed. So, once again, this was in September of 2023, so roughly two and a half, almost 3 years after the whole thing officially began. So, notice regarding the second instance judgment in Spain regarding the Medabots trademark. So it goes to read, regarding the judgment announced in our press release dated December 14th, 2021, notice regarding the favorable judgment of the lawsuit, the first instance of the trademark. We received an appeal February 23rd, 2022, and would like to inform you that we've again received favorable judgment in the appeals court. Basically, what this is saying is when they first took it back to court, they fought it in 2021 and won, And of course, with every court judgment requires an appeal period, where essentially it gives both sides a chance to provide further evidence to either continue the arguments or either to officially concede and drop any future arguments. Unfortunately, Kevin didn't quite get the memo, because in February he posted an appeal and was thus denied again that a new judgment was handed down. That's what this is. On May 26, 2020, Kevin Camadran de Frutos, herein referred to as Mr. Camadran, filed a lawsuit against us in the Commercial Court of Alicante, Spain, seeking to halt the sale of video games based on the EU trademark registration 1784761 Medabots, herein referred to as the EU trademark. On November 29, 2021, the courts led to cancel the EU trademark and dismiss Camadran's claim. This is about the time in 2021 after the courts had been brought to attention with Imagineer, and they brought everyone to the table. They realized Kevin filed everything in bad faith. He did everything possibly you could in a court case wrong. He didn't tell the other side he was suing them, and the courts were left completely out of the loop last possible second. So at this current point in time, Kevin is currently on the speed-running fast track to how to make yourself look terrible in court, and hoping people are going to believe you 101. Moving on. On February 23, 2022, Camadran appealed the above judgment, but on September 15, 2023, the Alicante Court of Appeal dismissed Mr. Camadran's appeal and ruled that the unauthorized use of the title of the video game Medabots constitutes an infringement of our intellectual property rights. They're talking currently on the Medabots game that Kevin tried to release, and that ownership of the EU trademark belongs to us, thereby fully upholding our claims. This is basically Imagineer arguing back, saying that Kevin using the Medabots name on the development he released and even made public for a short amount of time is completely infringing on Imagineer's rights, as it should, and that every argument they presented provides such as evidence and proves it. The above judgment may be appealed to the Supreme Court under procedural law, but we will announce it in a press release once the judgment is final. Even if an appeal is filed against the above judgment, we will continue to work towards the finalization of the judgment. Once again, this was of September of 2023, and I actually put a video, a special coverage out the same day this came out to talk about it and bring people up to speed with the case. But a lot of people have been asking me, and even fairly frequently I get asked every now and then in the PRB Discord, but Kura, what's going on? What's been going on since September 2023 to modern day? Why has it been so quiet? Why have we not heard anything if the courts have already sided in favor of Imagineer? Well, let me tell you. Much like it explained here, Kevin has been actively stalling and even has gone on record to saying he was doing it on purpose by waiting until the very last possible day of every possible appeal period that went through to file another appeal and drag the process out. So the entirety of 2024 and even through the first chunk of 2025 to date, there's a reason why it was so quiet, because every time the courts would administer a judgment, and essentially they just reiterate the same one here, Kevin would wait until the last possible day to appeal, which would then stall it in court another 6 to 10 months at a time. So as a result, Imagineer has not been able to actively put anything out until they've actually come to a final judgment, which they have finally at long last come to today. That leads to today's official announcement. On November 12, 2025, notice regarding the final ruling in favor of our company in the Spanish lawsuit regarding the Medabots trademark. This is fresh off the press, my friends. This has been positively buzzing in the community today and making the collective Medarot community globally go absolutely bonkers. This one is not very long, but I am going to go ahead and read it off here to bring you guys up to speed. Reading. Regarding the judgment announced in our press release dated September 25th, 2023, the one I just read, notice regarding the favorable ruling of the Spanish lawsuit, second instance regarding the Medabots trademark. The opposing party, Kevin Camadran de Frutos, appealed, but we are pleased to announce that the Spanish Supreme Court has dismissed the appeal on October 29th, 2025. The judgment is in our complete victory has been finalized. We will continue to work to protect legitimate intellectual property rights and develop healthy content business. This is the coup de grace, my friends. This is the final nail in the coffin we have been waiting for. We've been waiting for this for an extremely long time with everything that's been going on. And might I say, it has been absolutely exploding all over Twitter the last several hours, over the course of the last several days. Let me just actually read you off here some of the comments in particular as I stretch into this real quick. Here we are. Let me just make sure this is reading properly. Yes, it is. So, yeah, this is the official... Oops, hold on. There we go. Wrong window. There we go. This is the official tweet that was posted from Imagineer about it this morning. So you'll see here a time at roughly about 3:40, almost 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. May I clarify here as well. This was posted fresh off the press. This is the latest news there is, and it's been buzzing all day. Just looking at some of these comments here, in English no less. So, us, the global Medarot community, have been waiting for this for a very, very long time. Just to read a few of these here, I came in and said, the war is finally over. My friend Kyla Neko, this was definitely a war in the pocket. Wait, wrong anime. Crate function ceased. Glad to see it's finally over. Hoping to see Medarot Medabots pack in the West here pretty soon. That means, will you release Medabots stuff for the rest of the world, or should I keep playing the Game Boy Advance version? Bring Medabots back to the West. Please bring Medarot back to the West. We've been holding the torch for you guys for years. The mobile games, those remasters you guys put out a few years back. Please. This is cool as we can get the Switch collection, Metabee and Rokusho, translated into English. Maybe even a deluxe or remade version of a couple 3DS on the Switch. Woo, so happy. It's about time to release Meta Survivor worldwide. And it keeps going, folks. There's more English comments here than there are Japanese ones if you notice this. Us global folks have been waiting on this for a very, very long time. And we are so very excited to finally see this realized at long last. I am so excited for this, my friends, and I knew for a fact I had to comment on this the day of to make sure I didn't miss this opportunity and get the world in the know. This is super exciting. Now, before I continue, I do also want to take a chance and tell you guys to hold your horses and not put the cart before the horse. Now, yes, I am very excited over this, but let's also put this into perspective and kind of bring it back to the level. Now, what does this mean? This basically means that Imagineer will now properly and truly own the name of Medabots and Medarot globally for good. So this means if they choose to do anything with it, with either name, they are legally within their right to do so with no repercussion, no one trying to start any lawsuits. This is all on them. They are free to do it, which is what we wanted. Now, if they choose to release something or if they choose not to is entirely in their courts. They have stated several times in the past that they have noticed a very large interest in a global community and global support, especially with Meta Survivor and Medarot S. I like to believe I've taken some credit in that, but you know. But anyway, just because they have it now doesn't mean they are legally obligated to, but this does give them the ability to do so, and this is what we've been waiting for. So now, if they choose to release a localized version of a game collection, release a global server of Medarot S, or even an eventual, fingers crossed, Medarot 10 or Medarot X, they are able to do so and localize it with no problems whatsoever. So the ball is entirely in Imagineer's court now, which is what we've wanted for the last 5 years. No more lawsuits to hold them back, no one trying to tie their hands. It is entirely up to them at this point, and the sky's the limit. Now, this also means that the world is going to need a tinkerer to report on that meta news now more than ever, and I am proud to tell you guys and proclaim here on November 12th, 2025, that your resident tinkerer and Medarotter Kura Isagami isn't going anywhere. As long as Imagineer keeps pumping out Medarot stuff, I'm going to cover it in the meta news. You can count on that. That is my promise and my declaration to you. I wouldn't be here without any of y'all, and this is my ability to, in my way of saying thank you for your support and showing Imagineer as you guys' collective voice that we are here in the West. We want our pet fighting robots back, and we will support them in any way possible in order to see that to reality. In fact, just reading off a comment I made when I announced it in the Discord earlier this morning, Project Rising Beetle's entire premise, the entire reason Project Rising Beetle exists, is on the catchphrase, bring Metabee back. we are now one step closer to that becoming a reality, thanks to this final judgment in the lawsuit putting everything to rest. Well, that essentially covers everything in that, and like I said, that is the extremely short version as to what's been going on. I am hoping eventually to bring Crate back on for a proper retrospective on the entirety of the lawsuit, especially now that it's officially had its the end final chapter and there will not be any new developments to this lawsuit going forward. But I will have to coordinate with him on that and kind of work around some schedules and figure out how to get that officially on the books. But I just want to get this news to you guys straight on the same day, fresh from the press no less, so you guys can take this video and share it to everyone you need to bring them all in the know. But with all that being said, as always, I do appreciate you all for stopping in, just as you always do. And until next time, this is your host, Kura Isagami of the Medarot News Network, signing out.